Welcome to the program. We're live also on all our social media platforms. Join us now, 3FM 927, and let's get into the details of the story starting from here. President John Dramani Mahama is expected to visit the Akosombo Dam today to evaluate the situation following a recent fire outbreak at the Ghana Grid Company substation there, which has disrupted power supply across parts of the country. The fire caused extensive damage, leading to the loss of over 1,000 megawatts of electricity, resulting in intermittent outages. During the visit, the president is anticipated to receive briefings from engineers and technical teams overseeing repairs and to assess the progress made in restoring stable electricity supply. The country's main hydropower plant at Akosombo is now generating at least 550 megawatts. The partial recovery is the most significant step yet in stabilizing power supply after the April 23 incident forced a shutdown of Ghana's largest generation source, triggering widespread outages. This is a subject to keep an eye on, and we'll be bringing you updates in our subsequent bulletins. But in another development, the Electricity Company of Ghana has restored electricity supply to the Afram Plains area after a major outage triggered by damage to marine cables in the early hours of Monday. Speaking in an interview, the General Manager for External Communications at ECG, Dr. Charles Ni Ayiku, explained that the fault occurred about 400 meters into the river Afram, cutting off power to the entire Donkokrom district. He indicated that immediately after the incident, the Eastern Regional Maintenance Team mobilized to site to conduct an assessment. He highlighted the intervention of the District Chief Executive for Afram Plains South, Moses Tangwe, who played a pivotal role in resolving the challenge, and he emphasized that the coordinated effort and ingenuity of the team helped to avert what could have been a prolonged outage across the Afram Plains area. ECG also expressed its appreciation to all who contributed to the restoration effort and extended an apology to its cherished customers and the general public for their inconvenience caused. We're still staying on the power situation because power supply is expected to improve following the restoration of a key generation unit at the Akosombo Dam. But are consumers actually feeling the difference? Christabel Sosa-Trevor, she visited some areas to find out.
I'm here at Caprice today, where residents have been dealing with unstable power supply over the recent weeks. Now, with authorities saying that this particular situation should improve following repairs of a 4th-generation power units at Akosombo, we are here to find out, are people actually experiencing any difference? Come, let's find out.
It's still the same. Maybe it will take a time before it will have effect on us as citizens. So let's give the government some time. It happens like that, then it brings interaction into the production.
It's true that this thing has come, but the government, I know that it can solve the problem. But at my place, right now we see some improvement on it.
It's bad. I'm just praying to the government that he has said it, but it's not yet seeing it, so you have to work on it. People cool stores and marketplace, people who used to store in the cold store, they are finding it so difficult.
We have no problem here as at now. We don't know maybe after, but as at now, what we're experiencing from the last is the same thing.
For small business owners, consistency matters more than promises.
It's very poor when you're going to do your hair at the salon and they just take the light off. It sounds some way, because now we doesn't have a new clippers that we can say even light off we can use it. Solar something that will help us with the barbers or the business, the normal entrepreneur is good, because the solar, if the sun is on we can resolve more power. So if the sun go down we can use the solar, not the lights.
They are preferring a very stable and reliable power supply, and until that consistency is achieved, many consumers say the power situation is not yet fully resolved.
That was a report by my colleague Christabel Sosa-Trevor there. Now, President John Dramani Mahama says construction works under the West Africa coastal areas, the Waka project, are expected to begin soon, assuring residents that efforts are being made to speed up work to address ongoing coastal erosion challenges in parts of the Volta region. Speaking during a visit to affected coastal communities, he said the project had experienced delays in 2024 due to the election period, but has since resumed. This is a report by Komla Kluje.
Happened with the sea breaking through, and so today we decided to come and take a look at what is happening. All this area is part of a project area that is called Waka, and it's a World Bank project. We already have done some work ourselves. Earlier when I was president, we did the Kleotoko sea defense, all that area. Before that, Rawlings government had done the Kita sea defense, and then we also started the Blekusu 1, and then Blekusu 2 is currently ongoing. The rest of the coast is supposed to be covered by the World Bank $150 million Waka project, and that includes this area all the way to Ketu south and parts of Angloga. And so as the minister told you, there's going to be sea defense, and there are also going to be groins built into the sea to break the currents, the strong waves.
President John Dramani Mahama speaking there. Let's do some other stories this afternoon. And the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat has apprehended a foreman of an illegal small-scale mining site at Achim Moso near Dwaso in the Asante Akim South District of the Ashanti region, following a targeted enforcement operation conducted along the Kume River across the lands of Moso, Chichebiase and Bima. The suspect, identified as Elder David Bobby Peter, disclosed during questioning that he is an elder of the Church of Pentecost branch at Konongo. The operation commenced when the NIMOS task force descended on a sprawling illegal mining enclave at Chichebiase, where several youth were caught actively engaging in mining activities at the time of the raid. And the task force pursued the fleeing miners over a considerable distance, but the chase yielded no arrest at that stage, as illegal miners proved to be intimately familiar with the bush paths and escape routes within and around the Galamsey enclave. Notwithstanding the inability to apprehend the fleeing operators, the task force proceeded to dismantle 8 Shamfar machines and 4 wooden gold washing platforms through controlled burning, and several pipe hoses deployed in the illegal mining operation were equally set ablaze, while 12 water pumping machines were seized as exhibits. Now, still on Galamsey issues, cocoa farmers at Kasam and the Kwabri East municipality and Dumakwai in the Drabi municipality of the Ashanti region have staged a protest on Thursday over the destruction of their farms due to an ongoing Kumasi Outer Ring Road construction. The aggrieved farmers say the government's decision to divert a section of the road to accommodate heavy-duty trucks has severely affected their cocoa plantations, which serve as their main source of livelihood. According to the farmers, the contractor working on the project has over the past 3 months been clearing and degrading portions of their cocoa farms without any form of compensation or prior engagement. They express frustration over what they describe as neglect and unfair treatment, stressing that several acres of cocoa has been destroyed, leaving many families in financial losses.
Machine similar EAD because contractor now say advance when you can. A crown when you say now the engine you can was advance with him because you for one. Let him send a bosom and sending maintain to be snap and say the cocoa, yeah, what you're going to overcome Hoka. The million penny, and I remember me, ye say mama adwuma ma say misisi nyina mitimi ema me mu e say nya na say mituma saye adwuma foforo enti wo
dwini nyina wo mo ba so ma nka kasafa bia kire yen enu ane se wo mo se yemfa ye di card emrefuo mu ho ye ba ya afedi ye tutu ye no ma ye be hu ane se grade e bi ba me ba ba akukura de woda ho se grade na mfa so.
And those were the voices of some frustrated owners of cocoa plantations there. To some other stories this afternoon, as Ghanaians celebrate Workers' Day on Friday, a simmering labor dispute is reaching boiling point. About 4,500 security personnel and watchmen under the Teachers and Educational Workers Union prepare to take industrial action after what they describe as 14 years of neglect. TEWU represents more than 36,000 workers nationwide, including janitors, laundry operators, administrative staff, and account officers in senior high schools. The workers who guard schools, offices, and public education facilities across the country say they have gone more than a decade without receiving overtime pay for weekends and holidays. To General Secretary King James Azotiba, in an exclusive interview with Labour Affairs correspondent Daniel Opoku-Nakra, said they have been badly affected by the non-implementation of agreed conditions of service.
Yes, our members have been badly affected by the non-implementation or adherence to the concluded conditions of service provisions. To the extent that our members in the Ghana Education, Security and Watchmen Service have been denied their Saturday, Sunday, and public holidays overtime duties that they perform since 2002. 14 years. They have been working, and no security men, they work 12 hours. So Saturday and Sunday is supposed to be double hours. That's 24 hours. There's public holidays, 24 hours. They work. They are supposed to be paid. They are not being paid at all. We've sent several letters and petitions. And this year, after we concluded our conditions of service, we have petitioned the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. We have petitioned the Director General, and we have petitioned the National Labour Commission. And we have given them that come after Midday, we will, in solidarity, support our brothers and colleague workers in the Security and Watchmen Association of the Ghana Education.
This is a subject that we'll be getting into conversations to find out what next and what has been happening in terms of engagement between the various unions and government. But in the meantime, still on labor affairs, the General Secretary of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, ICU, Morgan Ayawene, has called for urgent reforms to Ghana's economic systems, warning that the sacrifices of workers are yet to translate into meaningful improvement in their living conditions. In his May 2026 May Day message to workers across the country, Ayawene acknowledged the resilience of the Ghanaian workforce, but questioned why years of hard work have not yielded the expected economic benefits. While commending government efforts to stabilize the economy, he stressed that macroeconomic gains must go beyond statistics and reflect in the daily lives of ordinary workers. We're still staying on matters of workers, and Abdul Mumin is the General Secretary of the Mine Workers Union under the umbrella of the Trades Union Congress, TUC, and he joins me live for a conversation. Abdul, thank you for joining us. Good afternoon to you. Let's start off with a conversation of boycotts. Will your union also boycott the May Day celebration?
Yeah, good afternoon to you and good afternoon to our viewers and listeners. I want to put on record that the Ghana Mine Workers Union will not boycott the day celebration. We are a part and parcel of the Trade Union Congress. We represent Ghanaian workers. Tomorrow is our day, and we will be there in our numbers to commemorate that day.
Great, good to know that. Let's talk about the conditions of workers now. And the story that we just read is the ICU, for instance, calling for urgent reforms to Ghana's economic systems, warning that the sacrifices of workers is not translating into improvement in their living conditions. Can we say that workers in these sectors are okay, or what is the current condition of or situation of workers in the various sectors?
No, the conditions of workers certainly aren't okay. If you look at what's been going on in the last, I would say, decade, we have allowed the influx of too many employment policies from the global north into the global south. And the impact has been very, very, consequential. So today, if you go into the private sector, you have virtually all the private sector workers in one temporary employment or the other. And the impact on their incomes, the impact on their job security concerns, the impact on their pensions, is so visible. I can assure you part of the reason why our pension fund is threatened and actuaries have questioned the sustainability of our pension fund has a direct relationship with the kind of employment regimes that we are running. I mean, some years ago, you had workers predominantly in stable employment, and for that matter, they contributed to the pension fund in a more, stable manner. Unfortunately, it's not happening that way because we have virtually sat back and allowed the influx of these, employment policies from the global north into the global south. So you have so much in terms of non-standard forms of employment that impacts on the incomes of workers, and that also directly impacts on their pensions.
Right.
And so Ghanaian workers are really going through a lot. They virtually can't put body and soul together anymore because we haven't really guarded our employment regime. Because look, we are a sovereign state and we should be able to determine what works for us. At the end of the day, to come into this country with your investment, the terms and conditions that must apply to you are terms and conditions that must be dictated. It cannot be that whatever your practices are from where you are, from your where you are coming from, must be the basis on which you run your employment regimes in this country.
Right.
And I think that is also because our authorities have allowed this to fester on, and that is why we need some reforms, and those reforms must include the kind of employment regimes that we have in this country.
I see. And finally, before you go, the Ghana Mine Workers Union had earlier rejected a directive by the Minerals Commission requiring major mining companies to transition to contract mining by December 2026. What is the latest on that?
Well, the latest on that is that we have called on the Minerals Commission and by extension the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to take a step backwards and evaluate the impact of this whole decision around contract mining and by extension local content. We shouldn't just do things because we wish or we want to do them. We should do them because it has some basis. And as far as we are concerned, for us to get into this whole contract mining, for that matter, local content regime, if not properly washed, we're going to have a complete, reversal of what the industry has done over the past couple of years and what it has been doing, up until today. And so our call to the Minerals Commission, by extension, the government, is that, look, let us sit back, let's sit down, and let's do a thorough assessment of what has been going on over the period, and then let's assess the impact of some of the decisions that we have made, and whether or not it has benefited us. As I indicated earlier, today, workers are in various forms of employment. Workers' job security cannot be guaranteed anymore. Today, their incomes cannot be guaranteed. Pensions cannot be guaranteed. And that has a direct implication on our pensions fund itself. So sometimes we know what the solutions to our problems are, but we, for some reason, would want to, walk back on them. And so our call is any shift in that direction has very serious ramifications for Ghanaian workers and for that matter, miners in this country. And it's important that as a regulator, you just don't, choose the highway. You need to get all the stakeholders together and begin to think tank around what works and what would inure to the benefits of not just workers, but the entire country.
Okay. Thank you so much, Abdul. We're grateful for your time. Abdul Mumin is the General Secretary of the Mine Workers Union under the umbrella of the Trades Union Congress, speaking with us there. Now, still on labor-related matters, because the National Federation of Labor, they say they will not be a part of this year's May Day celebration. The Federation says the decision follows unresolved concerns about inclusiveness and shared ownership of the annual workers' event. May Day, set for 1st May each year, is observed globally to honor the struggles of workers and the demand for better conditions, including the historic campaign for the 8-hour working day, and serves as a platform for labor advocacy and solidarity. But according to the Federation, the arrangement for this year's celebration has failed to reflect the collective voices of all labor organized groups rather than be dominated by a single body. According to the Federation, an earlier consensus reached at a meeting over the delivery of speeches was rejected by the TUC, collapsing consensus across the labor front. Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labor, Kenneth Kumsing, has joined us for a conversation. Kenneth, good afternoon to you. What is the justification for the boycott?
Well, I thank you very much. It's important that we establish a very clear basis for what we call collectivism and working together as trades unions. Currently, we have about 180 trades unions in this country. TUC only organizes 19 of them. It means that over 160 unions are outside the umbrella of the Ghana TUC. In 1965, an Industrial Relations Act was passed by the Parliament that imposes or that granted monopoly to the Ghana TUC, essentially saying that, look, you can do what you want. You are the sole recognized labor center. And so you can have midday celebrations. You can, appoint members to boards. I mean, they have the exclusive powers. But in 2003, that legal regime faded out with the repeal of the 65 and then the passage of the 2003 under President Kufuor's regime. Now, that act introduced what we call organized labor. The question that naturally arises is that what is organized labor? It's a definition we are still struggling to put together. But we've been having a working arrangement, which is all recognized trade unions come together to take decisions. So, for instance, last 2 years, on the 9th of October, when we embarked on the series of campaign against illegal mining, it was the organized labor. The Senate Hotel pitches, when we joined Aplakwa to protest against the pitches of Senate Hotel, it was organized labor. During the domestic debt exchange program, it was the organized labor. So there is an established practice where organized labor come together to prosecute plans, activities that will be in the interest of the ordinary Ghanaian worker. So let me tell you quickly what happened. In this year, 2026, a planning committee was put together which encompasses all the major labor unions in the country. They came up with a program. And on the 16th of April this year, we met at the Ghana Employers Association Conference Hall, Forum and GFL. And we said, look, this program does not reflect the collective voice and force of organized labor. So we need to review the program.
Kenneth, let's try and wrap up here. What has been the levels of engagement between yourself and the other groups in terms of your decision to boycott, and what will be the next steps of the next lines of action, briefly?
So on 22nd of April, Forum and GFL issued a statement to TUC saying that we are in the Midday. That statement is still valid. It's still valid. What we also made clear is that we are not discouraging our members from attending. Those who want to participate are at liberty to do so, but at the level of leadership, and we need to draw this distinction, okay? At the level of leadership, have withdrawn from participation, which did not include our views, our opinions, and what we considered as what would be relevant as far as this year's May Day is concerned. So that is the protest. But what we are going to do as GFL is that we are going to go to court, okay? Because in 2016, we had an arrangement in court.
Okay.
that has not been implemented fully.
Right.
We are going back to court to ensure that the 2003 Labour Act is given the full effect as far as labor is concerned.
I see. Kenneth Kumsing, thank you. Thank you so much for your time with us on the program. Kenneth Kumsing is the Deputy General Secretary of the Ghana Federation of Labour speaking with us there. This is still the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. We're still live on all our social media platforms at 3FM 927. Let's still bring you some more stories tonight, this afternoon. And the Ghana Education Service has warned against examination malpractice ahead of this year's West African Senior School Certificate Examination and Basic Education Certificate Examination. Now, Monday, May 4, marks the beginning of both the West Africa Senior School Certificate Examination and the Basic Education Certificate Examination. Over the years, the examination malpractice has plagued many centers, with some students having their result cancelled as a result. At a high-level meeting held at Achimota Senior High School ahead of this year's exams, authorities issued a strong warning over the growing concern. And the Greater Accra Regional Director of Education, Hajia Katuma Natagma, described the situation as one of the greatest threats to academic integrity.
Examination malpractice cannot be left to the Ghana Education Service or WAEC alone. It is a shared responsibility, requiring the active involvement of every stakeholder. Parents must instill honesty, discipline, and hard work in their children rather than placing undue pressure on them to succeed at all costs.
That's the voice of the Greater Accra Regional Director of Education, Hajia Katumi Natagma. They're ending the midday news here on 3FM 92.7. The small news on our website, 3news.com. My name is Noble Crosbyan, and business news is up next. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up, banks tighten credit to corporates but signal possible easing ahead as household lending conditions improve in early 2026. Also ahead, Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atuforsen sets compliance tone, files 2025 taxes early as government pushes revenue drive.
To use this opportunity to again encourage everyone, all public officials, businesses, individuals, sole proprietors to all get involved in the process of paying your taxes.
And government targets 5.009 billion cedis in treasury bill auction today to break under subscription streak. I am Bismarck House. I will bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Please stay. Thanks for your company. Now to the details. Banks in Ghana tightened lending conditions to corporate clients in February 2026, according to the latest credit conditions survey captured in the March Monetary Policy Report by the Bank of Ghana. The report indicates that the tighter stance affected nearly all business loan categories, with the exception of small and medium-skilled enterprises. However, banks are projecting a shift in the near term, expecting lending conditions to ease across all corporate segments over the next 2 months. In contrast, credit conditions for households improved during the period under review. The easing was driven by increased access to loans for house purchases, consumer credit, and other personal lending. The findings suggest a cautious approach by banks toward businesses, while support for household borrowing continues to strengthen. Moving on, in a symbolic move to reinforce tax compliance and public accountability, the Finance Minister, Dr. Kasiel Atu-Forsen, together with his deputy, Thomas Nyako Ampim, has personally filed his 2025 income tax returns at the Ghana Revenue Authority GRA headquarters in Accra. The gesture is being positioned as a strong signal of leadership by example as government intensify efforts to boost domestic revenue mobilization amid ongoing fiscal reforms. Dr. Forsen used the opportunity to call on individuals and businesses across the country to meet their tax obligations promptly, stressing that timely compliance remains critical to funding national development priorities and sustaining economic recovery.
Today, myself and my deputy decided to file our taxes together and to show to the world that we are not only asking others to pay their taxes, but we are also involved in the process of paying taxes and also filing our taxes. The action demonstrates a shared commitment to voluntary tax compliance and good governance. Paying taxes is a civic duty and a cornerstone of the nation's development. Public officials, professionals, businesses, and citizens are equal before the tax laws, and all of us must comply. Nobody is above the tax law. Leading by example helps strengthen public trust in national institutions. And I want to use this opportunity to again encourage everyone, all public officials, businesses, individuals, sole proprietors, to all get involved in the process of paying your taxes.
And that was Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atu-Forsen. Still on tax compliance, head of the Education and Training Committee at the Chartered Institute of Taxation Ghana, Francis Timoboy, has called for a strategic shift in how tax laws are communicated to the public to improve national revenue mobilization. A central part of Timoboy's advocacy is the need for a more visible link between tax contributions and tangible national projects. He argued that by demystifying laws and using clearer language, government can reduce the apprehension many citizens feel toward the tax system.
The government coffers. We all need roads. We all need the hospitals to be built. And you agree with me that in terms of taxation, the compliance level is very low in Ghana. Many people make money from businesses, employment, and they don't contribute their fair share. So this awareness is created. And this year, the Chartered Institute of Taxation, we are partnering with GRA. We are a professional body, and we are mandated by law to ensure the promotion of tax practice in Ghana and tax education. So we partner with the GRA to create this awareness so that Ghanaians will see the importance of the little money they contribute in the form of taxes. It can be direct or indirect tax. Today you walk to the shop and you buy something and they say pay taxes. All of these things are put together, and then government is able to put it to use. We've seen nurses at home. Everybody is saying we should recruit them. How are you going to pay them? Everything comes from the taxes. And so we believe that this awareness that we are creating is not the end. It's just the starting point, and people, Ghanaians, will see the benefits of paying taxes.
And that was head of the Education and Training Committee at the Chartered Institute of Taxation Ghana, Francis Timoboy. Away from tax compliance, government is set to return to the domestic market today with a target of 5.009 billion cedis through its weekly treasury bill auction. The issuance, which spans the 91-day, 182-day and 364-day tenors, comes at a critical juncture as authorities attempt to snap a 6-week streak of under-subscriptions. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk report.
This target of 5.009 billion cedis reflects a delicate balancing act. While government needs to meet its short-term financing requirements, officials have signaled a desire to minimize debt accumulation and avoid crowding out the private sector. By moderating its domestic borrowing, government aims to leave more liquidity in the banking system, encouraging banks to pivot toward private sector lending and other diverse investments. Several factors have cooled investor appetite for government securities in recent weeks. There is a growing gap between the low yields government is willing to pay and the higher returns investors expect to compensate for inflation and risk. With the expiration of restrictions on new domestic bond issuances, many institutional investors are shifting their capital toward higher yielding, longer dated bonds rather than short-term bills. As the Bank of Ghana maintains an easing cycle, Treasury bill yields have fallen significantly, with the 91-day bill at 4.92%. For many investors, the risk-free rate no longer offers the attractive premium it once did. In an effort to keep borrowing costs low, government has frequently rejected bids that it considered too expensive, leading to lower accepted amounts. Thursday's auction will be a key test of whether government's current yield strategy can attract the necessary volume of capital to bridge the fiscal gap without compromising its commitment to private sector growth.
And that was a 3 Business News Desk report on government targeting 5.009 billion cedis in treasury bill auction today to break under subscription streak. This is still Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. Before we go, there is a glimmer of hope for Ghana's construction industry and thousands of aspiring homeowners. The latest data from the Ghana Statistical Service shows that the cost of building is finally stabilizing as building cost inflation slowed for the 11th consecutive month. The following 3 Business News Desk report has the details. According to the March 2026 Prime Building Cost Index, year-on-year inflation in the sector dropped to 2.2%, down from 2.4% in February. This is a recovery from the volatile peaks of 2025, when inflation soared above 20%. While annual figures are cooling, experts note that monthly costs still edged up by 0.8%, signaling that while the fever has broken, prices are not yet falling across the board. This decline is one of 2 halves. On one side, relief is coming from the foundations. Cement prices fell by 8.3%, with steel and aggregates also seeing price drops. On the other side, finishing your building remains expensive. Glazing and electrical works continue to see double-digit inflation at over 11%, while plumbing and metalwork remain significant pressure points. For households and individuals waiting to restart that stalled project, now may be the time. Analysts recommend phased construction to capitalize on these easing pressures. Businesses are being urged to lock in medium-term contracts now to hedge against any future price rebounds. For government, the report suggests this is the perfect window to accelerate the big push infrastructure projects. However, a persistent skills gap among artisans remains a challenge for the construction industry. While the sector's cost is easing, sustaining this downward trend will depend on stable supply chains and a renewed focus on training the next generation of builders. That was a 3 Business News Desk report on Ghana's building cost inflation slowing to 2.2% in March. This has been Business Daily on 3FM 92.7 with me, Bismarck Ausa. For more business stories, please check out our website 3news.com. Urban Blend is next with Black Rasta. Please stay.